Duelists are flashy, exciting, fun, and the center of attention in any ranked game. Then there's the controller. Controllers, well, unlike duelists, are actually useful no matter the scenario. With the press of a button, you can have even more impact than a duelist's whole kit if you play it right. Smokes are the most versatile piece of utility in the game, bar none. But how so? Isn't a smoke just used for vision blocking? Well, yes and no. Smokes can accomplish so many things, such as saving teammates, assisting lurks, manipulating opponents, setting up kills, literally, and just so much more. There are several types of smokes too, with tons of ways to use them that people generally overlook. The best part is, though, you don't need any aim, you can just press a button and have insane impact. And in the next 10 minutes, we're going to be showing you exactly how to do that. While consulting with Radiant experts, here's what they had to say about smokes. The main separation between a low elo controller and a Radiant controller is somebody that is flexible with the way they use their smokes. Standard smokes are great, but there's a whole other world to playing controller that many players just don't even realize. With flexibility and creativity, the controller role goes from a simple supportive role to a role that will consistently carry games. When our expert was talking about flexibility, he mentioned one major use of smokes that not many players do: mid-sight smokes. Mid-sight smokes create so much freedom for the defending player to move around the site and isolate certain fights. When playing side alone as an anchor, after you've fallen back, you're able to be peeked from both stairs and lane, making one of your safest positions backside. This unfortunately means that you can very easily be flushed out or flashed and dealt with very easily. So in order to maximize your potential on site, you or your teammate can place a smoke, allowing you to freely move in and out of it, using it as extra concealment on the site. This opens up a lot of doors for the side anchor and in turn could help them get way more kills. It can also fragment the way the enemy team goes about clearing out the site. Here on Lotus, you can see Dr. Freeze drop down 2 side smokes, as opposed to smoking just the choke. This fragments the enemy team, and they have to push into it to clear sight. This allows for the Doctor to easily dispatch of players with little risk of being traded out. This is just one example though. You can get creative with your mid-sight smokes. Another great example would be on Split here though. This smoke still enables them to fight from side, but also allows the Jet to move in and out of the smoke and cross to elbow safely. Like we said, get creative. Think about what you're accomplishing for yourself and your team when throwing these, and you're going to do great. Now, fair warning, one thing that most controller players neglect early on is actually going to be their fundamentals. This goes far beyond things like crosshair placement and counter strafing too. It also includes things that you probably don't even realize you're doing wrong too, like peeking, spacing with your teammates, or even just where you choose to stand. Of all things, just where you're standing. The players who are consistently able to drop 30 in their matches are masters of all these things. And you could be too now with our Aim God Masterclass that is expertly designed to teach you all of the fundamentals that you need to know in literally just one course. Our goal is to have this course teach you everything you need to know, which is exactly why we're constantly updating it as users submit feedback. It's always changing. The game is always developing too, and that's why our website is. With new courses posted every single month, you can be sure that you're always ahead of the curve when it comes to your mechanics. And on top of that, we also offer a rank improvement guarantee. So if you don't climb while using our service, you don't pay. Now we know it sounds insane, but that's how confident we are in what we offer. Check it out using the link below. Flood smokes are simply smokes that are placed in front of a rotation, allowing defenders to push onto site or leave if needed in a retake scenario. When this smoke is down, players are free to move on and off site, which is insanely helpful in retake scenarios. A simple smoke, one button, can be the difference between your team getting shut down in a choke point or completely flooding the site and taking the round. Just like with flood smokes, you can similarly use them to help your teammates effectively escape from a lot of situations. Let's say you're defending and your teammate on catwalk got stuck in cubby. A single well-placed smoke can literally save their life. You want to position the smoke as far from them as you can to minimize the enemy's spam potential. The closer to your teammate the smoke is, the easier it's going to be for the enemy to kill them as they cross. So, position the smoke as far away as you can. Lurk smokes are smokes that are placed outside of a defensive smoke, enabling you to move past the smoke safely. Here's a great example. Let's say you're smoked off B main and you know there's a jet holding the smoke from stairs. You can throw a smoke outside of their B main smoke and walk towards lane. This can be great when combined with a drone or a flash, allowing you potential free access to lane. So from here, your team can either flash out of the allied lurk smoke and start to secure site, or flood onto site through lane. This is an essential way to smoke that you must keep in mind. It's just another option in your book if you don't feel like a standard smoke would work here. Lurk smokes make it extremely dangerous for defending players, as it makes it very hard for a defender to watch the angle. On Icebox here, if the attackers throw this lurk smoke, the defending mid players have to worry about a lot of different possibilities. They have to worry about if the enemy went under tube, went into tube, or are possibly about to push through the smoke, putting massive amounts of pressure onto the defenders. Here's an example of Dr. Freeze using a lurk smoke on defense to maximize the angles he can peek from. By using this smoke, he can swing to the left of it, the center, or swing and tuck right with a flash. This perfectly counters the enemy Brimstone, who's smoked mid-flushed. Speaking of flushed smokes though, it's also important that you're flushing the smokes to the angle. What this would look like is putting the smoke as deep into the angle as possible, minimizing the amount of angles the enemy team can peek from if they go through the smoke. When the smoke is protruding, they can peek to the side of the smoke as well as the front, so just make sure your smokes are flush with the angle. This will make it so if any enemy does peek out of the smoke, they're completely exposed and their only option is to fight or fall back into the smoke. There's also one-ways, which are a great way to pressure the attackers and prevent them from peeking angles. One-ways are just a smoke that's placed in a position where your team is able to see the feet of the opponent before they can even see you. The idea behind these smokes is to place them high enough that you can see the enemy's legs, but they can't see you. This is great for countering spamming defenders or deterring attackers from pushing into certain areas. There's a lot of one-ways, some undiscovered, so once again, creativity with controllers couldn't be more helpful. Let's look at how oppressive these smokes are from a professional player's perspective. In this round, Nats and his team are attempting to take B main control. The one-way smoke comes in, and look at the way his team instantly recoils and backs up when they see the smoke come in. They understand the power of one-ways. Now they're forced to use loads of extra utility, a Skydog, an Omen Blind, etc. This is all just to attempt to take B main from the defenders. A counter Omen Blind comes in from the enemy, and both of Nat's teammates lose their fights. This chaos is all caused by a single one-way, which forced the Nats team back, made them use utility, and they still lost pushing through it. Here's another example of the same game here. Their Omen throws a one-way here simply to prevent the Sky from peeking. From here, the Sky has to basically just hold position as the enemy can creep up behind on the one-way and just pinch her. You'll see this is exactly what happens here, and the Sky uses the enemy's one-way to her advantage to secure a kill before being traded to the player off to the left. Outside of some of this cheeky tech here, don't forget that the main goal of controllers is vision blocking and maximizing the amount of time and areas that you can vision block. On defense, controllers are crucial, and will 100% carry a game solely due to the power of smokes. We're going to use Ascent as our map for today's example of standard controller play, and Icebox as our example for walls. When achieving vision blocking, it's important that you're able to take into account what your teammates need in a given situation. On defense, if your team is taking heavy fire over towards B site, it may be best to smoke off B main to allow your team to get some wiggle room. Smokes prevent vision from B main onto site and can shut down a push in a lot of instances. Even if it doesn't shut the push down though, your team will have greater success rates fighting enemies running through smokes than players with full vision onto site. On attack side, vision blocking is amazing for two reasons. One is pushing onto site, and the other is dealing with an operator. On site pushes, throwing down a smoke, let's say CT and mark it on B site, allows you to push out and only worry about the player's fighting sight. Now, sometimes enemies will push through smokes, and that's just a variable to consider while you're playing controller, but taking a step back, dealing with operators is one of the best use case scenarios for controllers, literally hands down. Enemies will commonly op here on Catwalk. Time and time again, I see this one player getting multiple kills in a round just sitting on Cat. A single well-placed smoke can force this player off the angle, making him either leave and go somewhere else, or wait 20 seconds for the smoke to expire, which allows your team to gain map control in middle. Coming back to executes though, when you're pushing onto site, it's important that the smokes go down before your team pushes onto site. So if we look at Icebox now, a standard wall on B site can completely deny the defending team from assisting in a retake. Alternatively, on defense, a wall here on A site can make it extremely difficult for the attackers to hit site. Now, speaking of blocking vision from enemies, let's not forget that you can block off enemy utility with smokes. Trip blockage is another great use, and it's if your teammate is trying to commit to a flank but is stuck by a tripwire. You can easily just smoke off the trip for them, allowing for them to continue on their path. Playing inside of smokes is also insanely powerful, and we see players doing it all the time with shotguns. The general rule of thumb here, especially inside of vision-altering smokes like Brimstone, is to stay on the edge of the smoke. The player on the edge of a Brimstone smoke will see the other player first, so keep this in mind inside of smokes. Brim's sky smokes are amazing for shotguns, as there's low visibility, so it's much easier than, say, an Omen smoke, for example. You can also toss them down to gain a bit of ground on enemies in a few different scenarios. This is most notably done with Jet or Cypher when you see players like Daznarth or Asbuzz getting super aggressive through the use of their smokes, but the same thing can apply with Brimstone in a last-ditch scenario. So here's a few common mistakes we see controller players do literally just far too often. The biggest mistake is blowing all of your smokes at the start of a round on defense. You need the smokes in order to stall, so just make sure you're holding on to them for when they're needed, rather than just using them all at once. Another mistake is smoking off angles your team may be posted on with an op. Avoid doing this, as it happens way too much. And for our final mistake, we have not using smokes once you've secured the spike site. If you have any remaining smokes, now would be the time to use them to stop the enemy team from retaking. All right, though, guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and we think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's kind of like a gym membership guaranteeing you that you're gonna get ripped. Your local gym would probably go bust if they offered you that. But not us, because we've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the internet. We add new courses every month with over 1,000 guides curated into over 50 courses. No one can compare. We also have a direct line of communication with subscribers in our Discord so that you can get connected immediately to some of the best players in the game who will respond to every question you ask. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you're serious about improving your game. So that's going to be all for this one today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.